Hey everybody, Happy New Year. Getting back on the my grandfather's old square body LS Swap today. So kind of working here on part two. So as you can kind of see, so I had spent some time disassembled the motor as far as taking the water pump and all the other accessory brackets, intake, and everything off essentially. Got it cleaned up, scuffed it up, and painted it for go with old school Chevy orange. Give it a little bit of pop under the hood. And went ahead and did this now while I still had the original timing cover and everything on the front of the block. Obviously masked up a lot of other things. I still got to go through and take all this masking tape off. But the plan of the day is going to have to ultimately take it off the engine stand because I have a torque, essentially the flex plate to mount this to the TH350 that's in the truck. Essentially has a little bit of dish to it. I'm sure you can see that on camera there. But because of that, means I can't actually slide it in behind the engine mount just based off the spacers and things that I have mounted here. So I have to actually take it off, hang it, get this mounted, and I think after it's mounted, it'll still actually fit. It just essentially won't actually clear the crankshaft and everything and actually slide between the bolts. So I think once I take it off, get this mounted, put it back on, I'll be able to actually remount it back to the engine stand. Um, and ultimately, the intent there is to be able to do a cam swap. So right now, this has the VVT cam from the factory for the L96 motor. Ultimately, going to a Truck Norris no springs required cam from Brian Tooley Racing. Did that just so I don't have to actually change the springs and deal with all that. It'd be a nice bump in performance, but ultimately I needed to get rid of the variable valve time cam because going to the Holley Terminator system doesn't actually support the variable timing for the cams. You may be able to actually just lock it into one position and run it. I'm not sure, but I figured be a good opportunity to go ahead and just get a little extra performance out of this motor, do a cam swap, and yeah, so we'll kind of get started, finish unwrapping a bunch of masking tape and everything, and then start uh, getting the engine hoist over here, get it ready to pick up, hang, mount the flex plate, and then go from there. All right, so I got most of the masking kind of pulled loose. Going to keep a few things essentially on like the intake, and then still got it on the spark plugs. I hadn't pulled those all the way out. I did back those out partially, just so when we're actually having to turn this over, essentially, to make it a little bit easier. Won't have to be fighting the compression essentially all the way around. But also want to show off another. So I took the intake manifold. I don't know if you can remember from the prior videos. This thing was pretty gross because it had that big engine cover on it, and essentially mice had essentially made them a nice nest on top of this thing. So this thing was just gross. But was able to actually took like a Bissell steam cleaner, a little hand steam cleaner, and kind of went over this thing. Took a toothbrush and some other brushes essentially, and just went at it, steaming it. Essentially taking the brush and steamer just continually kind of back and forth multiple times, and then giving it a good rinse off. And now it actually looks. I think it looks pretty sharp. Looks back to almost factory conditions, so a lot better. So yeah, all right. Well, next steps start getting the engine lifted up and getting the flex plate attached. All right, so we got the flywheel bolted on, headed to it, I guess, 3 tries. First time didn't realize this spacer, or first 2 times didn't realize this spacer was actually on there between the crank and where the flywheel goes until we started taking measurements. Once we got the flywheel on, it did not line up with the lockout bracket or the starter. So flipped it around and realized that was also not going to work just because of how it then made it too close. That's when we saw this spacer was on there. You could barely kind of see the lip, and they would take 2 bolts and ultimately drive that off, and then it came back to normal. So after getting the flywheel in the engine, decided to go ahead and switch gears and start taking the front end of the truck off. Since the engine's back on the engine stand, kind of keep it off to the side. And while I had Dad's help, have the extra set of hands, essentially go ahead and start tearing apart the front end of the truck. Start trying to make at least as much progress as I could in the day. And kind of here's kind of where we get started, taking the hood and start removing the rest of the parts, and actually started even test fitting the replacement fenders that we had. Yeah, I think that one is the bit life. So these fenders from AMD actually matched up really well. Had good body lines and everything else once we actually test fit them with the new inner fenders and front fenders. So that was kind of good, and we don't have to do any major body work on those other than we'll have to scuff and paint. So that was at least a nice win from that perspective. Then we kind of tore it all back apart and yeah, kept going. Yeah.
What happened to it?
Well, we kind of took it apart.
I told you don't take it apart.
Well, we got it back here, Steve. It's leaned up against the truck. You see it?
Where? Where is it?
Right there, it's the tire.
Where?
See it?
I can't see it.
Yeah, then picking up the next day, went back to working on the cam swap. It's good, so now I need to get the tensioner pulled back, locked into place. I think last time I took a piece of wire and stuck in there. Clean up any other goo down here before putting the new system on. All right, so I got the timing mark set top dead center. I was able to pull this chain over and get a nail there in the tensioner. So at least it's got a little bit of slack. Not a whole lot, but I think that's probably just because this thing's actually not really worn that much, but it's got some. So now we'll break this loose, put the lock back on the flywheel there, so we can break this loose and pull the cam out and see what it looks like. All right, so I've gotten 2 of the screws out. These 2 just will not come loose with the breaker bar. Tried kind of tapping the back of the breaker. So now I'm actually going to try one of these tools for Dad had. It's like a screwdriver impact. See if I can get these to come out. Essentially, I've soaked them in acetone. Not really sure how much really seeped in, but it's hoping the would seep in essentially and try to loosen up the thread locker or thread sealant, whatever the factory used on these things to have these 2 so stuck. I mean, this one right here was pretty bad. This one right here was like hardly anything at all. Considering these things are only supposed to have like 11 foot-pounds of torque, it's kind of crazy. So yeah, let's see if this works. I'll probably apply a little more heat. Got a better torch than that little butane
one, apply a little heat, and then smack it with a hammer and see if it comes out. If not, I'll have to resort to drilling. All right, got success on one. Ended up having to replace these bolts, I think. I don't think the kit came with replacement hardware, but I think these are going to be so boogered up that I probably won't be able to retighten them. So I'll have to find some replacement flathead screws. But one down. Now try the same thing with the other one. Apply heat, smack it with a hammer, and go from there. Not gonna be so lucky with the last one. It's going to round the head out. Yep, on to drilling. All right, well, we got that drilled out. I think it was 13/64 drill bit. Now I'm going to try to take easy out and see essentially if I've drilled enough of it out to weaken the screw enough to let it loose. Don't want to go too far on the easy out either, just because I don't want to break one of these off, but we will see here. There we go. All right, winner, winner.
All right, well, now that we got that drilled out, got the retainer plate off, cleaned up, tried to go through and kind of vacuum out the holes and take a pick and kind of clean out all the excess thread locker that was on there. I have to get some new hardware, but I can at least use this two that were still good. So hold it for now while I order some new hardware. But yeah, essentially got all the lifter rods pulled out. Made sure to go through and kind of spin the cam, making sure everything was good and loose there. And then I don't know if it actually works or not, but I'd seen when I did the Trans Am cam swap, somebody suggested taking some dowel rods and sticking them in the two holes there once you take the retainer plate off. Stated that'll help prevent the lifters from dropping. Granted, this engine's new enough, the tray should hold it pretty well, but better safe than sorry, because if it does come loose, it pretty much again you got to take a whole bunch of stuff apart. So trying to save that. But yeah, so now it's, I guess, see if we can get this pulled out and then start sliding the new one in. Let's see, move the nut here. There we go. All right, get that one out. Put the new one in. I got some assembly lube. Try to go through, kind of grease this thing up as we go. All Not sure if there's a thing, if it's too much or not enough, so go on the heavy side to start. All nice and slimy.
And it was, of course, right there at the end that I realized the last journal of the cam had some rust on it, and also some rust down in the groove. You can kind of see with a picture here, kind of showing what I tried trying to clean it up, but in the end you could still kind of feel that texture, which I know would just probably tear the bearing up. So this is where I stopped and called Summit.
Well, best laid plans. 2 steps forward, 1 step back. So as I was installing the cam, I noticed the very last journal on the cam actually had some like rust spots on it, and some rust down in the valley of between it and the first lobe. That may not actually, the second part may not be a big deal, but first part essentially you could like feel the texture on the cam essentially itself. So that would probably end up chewing the bearing up. So good thing is called Summit. They were good about it. I kind of told them what happened. They we only had it a couple months essentially, just pulled it out of the box and had this. So they said they'd send me a replacement. So big thanks to Summit Racing. I'll get this one degreased essentially from all the assembly lube that I already got on it. Put it back in the bag and ship it back to them as a, I guess, proof or whatever. But yeah, thanks to them. So this is going to conclude where we're at here with this this leg. Be a few days, I'm sure, to get the new cam in. Plus, I had to get some new bolts for the cam retainer and all that. So I'm just going to call it quits here for part 2 of the LS swap on my grandfather's square body. Thanks for joining. Something you enjoy, please like, subscribe. Come and check us out next time as I finish up the cam swap, and then we going to get started on actually pulling this old 350 out, and then work on getting the new LS motor in. I think I got pretty much everything at this point ready to slap it back in and go. I got the Holley Terminator system and everything else ready to go. So yeah, thanks again for joining. We will see y'all next time.